Welcome to the live stream. We're going to quickly gather our thoughts on the Jakob Poeltl trade. The Toronto Raptors send Khem Birch and his 2 years remaining, a 2024 first round pick protected, and 2 future seconds. There's a lot of questions I have naturally about this trade. Namely, is this part of a 2-part, 3-part series of trades? And I wanted to put this together in a quick video for Jakob Poeltl itself, because obviously if you were with us on the live last night, you caught my live reaction, and oh man, I really hope that doesn't go viral because it was not a pretty reaction. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with Jakob Poeltl, what I like, what I don't like, and what I absolutely am terrified about with him going forward. Prepared a few graphics mainly, and I just want to talk a little bit about this. Again, for those of you out there who don't have time to go through a 4-hour live stream or to gather my thoughts on Jakob Poeltl, because I'm sure we'll talk about it on today's live show, I just wanted to put down who this player is. I think too often with trades, everyone's all in or all out. It's either the worst thing or the best thing. And with Jakob Poeltl, it's not the best thing or the worst thing. It's just a complicated thing. And there are layers and nuance to this. After the stream last night, after I had a moment to calm down, I did some research into the numbers. I wanted to understand, because I don't watch San Antonio on a regular basis. I think I've watched 3 San Antonio games maybe all year. It's one of the least watchable teams in the league. And I just wanted to understand, who is Jakob Poeltl, the player, today? Because I remember who he was when we had him. So, who is Jakob Poeltl? Who have the Raptors gotten in this trade? Right? Let's talk about it. So, I'm going to break this down into 3 things: the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right? So, the good side of Yak is obviously that he is probably your second or possibly best rebounder. He is a very good rebounder, offensive glass, defensive glass, and he has been for a while now. He has a good knack for the ball. He is only 27 years old. He will be 28 this October. So if the Raptors do resign him, they will be starting the season next year with a 28-year-old center in his prime. It gets you off of Khem Birch. Now, Khem Birch is not a player that I was excited about ever. I've never been excited about him, and when the Raptors signed him, my first thought was, wow, what an overpay. Everyone was talking about, wow, you got a starting center for $6 million. He wasn't a starting center, and I think you get rid of a negative asset. People talk about Ben Simmons, and we will get to the Ben Simmons component of this and what I mean by that when we talk about the bad and the ugly. But yeah, moving off of Khem Birch, who is virtually unplayable for a lot of reasons, partly because of Nick Nurse's reluctance to play him, but I think Khem Birch is just, it's hard to move a player like that. It's hard to play a player like that. He's often injured. So as much as we can say appreciation to Khem Birch, thank you for your time, thank you for your service, sir, I do not think that having $6 million on the contract in dead weight, especially with Otto Porter also out right now, was beneficial. So you basically trade nothing for something in a way. He is efficient. He's a really efficient player. He shoots about 74% at the rim. We'll talk about that, of course. He is, for all of the brilliance of Christian Koloko on defense, he has been extremely inefficient on offense. He's there was a chart that we shared the other day of the most efficient scorers in the half court among big men in the NBA. Christian Koloko was dead last. He is one of the worst finishers in the NBA, partially due to size, partially due to experience, partially due to strength, whatever, but he has not done well. Jakob Poeltl has incredible touch around the basket. It's almost a rare sight to see him miss one of those floaters and, hook shots. In a lot of ways, Jakob Poeltl is one of the most efficient centers in the NBA. Problem is, it's almost entirely in the paint, right? We flashed this graphic last night. He does not shoot from outside the paint. We will get into that, but caveat, 2 points is 2 points. Layups are the most efficient shots in basketball. They are more efficient than threes by far. And if you have a guy who can shoot this well at the rim, I think, you do well, right? So returning back to the good and the bad, he's an expanded playmaker. You know, he was largely a, you create for him type of player with the Raptors. I think now there is some creation in his game where he can put the ball down, couple dribbles. He's expanded his game quite a bit. And I also want to talk about the playmaking because I think that his assist percentage has gone up. His role and usage with San Antonio this year was the highest it's been. Granted, the San Antonio Spurs, 14-win team, one of the worst teams in the league, but it is not because of him. He is one of the only two positives on that team in terms of box plus minus, which means the team is technically still better with him than without him on the court. And there's only two players in San Antonio for whom that is true, and he's one of them. In a lot of ways, you could argue he and Keldon Johnson are the only really good players on San Antonio, or is it him and Devin Vassell? I can't remember. It was either him and Keldon or him and Devin that were the positives, and everyone else was pretty much a net negative across the board. So now that we've gotten rid of the positives, I want to talk about the downside, the negatives, the bad, and the ugly. So in terms of the bad, he clogs the paint on offense, right? There's just no way around it with a shot chart like that ugly. With a shot chart like this, he's going to be in the dunker spot. He's going to be flashing to the front of the paint. He's going to be clogging up the post. I mean, he is smart. So we'll say that's a caveat. He's smart that he's not going to be blocking lanes, but there's only so many places that a guy like this can go to get out of the way when he's not a threat from outside of 14 feet. Teams will live with him shooting foul line jumpers all day. So in a lot of ways, that hurts. Number two, unlike with Miles Turner, where I don't know if Miles Turner was available to the Raptors or what that would have cost. Certainly the package they traded for Jakob Poeltl could not have been put towards Miles Turner. But unlike with Miles Turner, where there is a contract beyond this summer, there's still a very real possibility that, Jakob Poeltl could walk for absolutely nothing this offseason. And that has to be considered in the realm of possibilities. You would be crazy to assume that it's impossible. Even if there is a deal in place right now, unless you sign the dotted line, that is always going to be a possibility. Could it be a sign and trade? The Raptors retain his bird rights because they trade for him. But could it be a sign and trade? Could it be a long-term fit? Could they already have a figure in mind of what they want to sign him for, right? I think that's possible. The third part of this is that the defense has declined. Now, 4 years ago, right, when the Raptors traded Jakob Poeltl and a first-round pick and DeMar DeRozan to the San Antonio Spurs, and we just keep giving firsts to San Antonio. It's kind of funny, actually. And they keep screwing them up. But there was a lot of me that wondered aloud who the best player in that deal was for San Antonio. Jakob was the younger player, and there was a part of me that was wondering, is it possible long-term that Jakob turns out into, I don't know, a Rudy Gobert type? Because his block percentage was trending crazy up. He was a good rebounder. A little bit of development, maybe a foul line jumper, and you literally were talking about a top 3 to top 5 center in the NBA. And, that's a hell of a lot to give up for a Kawhi rental. Granted, Raptors win a championship. But let's just say to those people out there who thought DeMar DeRozan was 90% of the Spurs' return, I was never one of those people. I always felt that maybe it was a 50-50 thing because Jakob was so young and he was a really good player. I want to say that his production, analytics, everything about him has just trended down over the last 3 years in terms of defense. Now, block percentage is not everything. 7.1% block percentage is really decent. It's competent given how smart a defender he is. He's not going after blocks like Hassan Whiteside. These were in the rhythm of the game type of shot blocks, and I think he was really good at it. He was one of the best defensive centers in the NBA in 2019-2020 for San Antonio, and it's just his second year there, right? Super low usage, right? Just an incredible rebounder. I think there is a case to be made right there, right? We see the box plus minus 2.5. I've often referenced 2.5 as borderline all-star, right? I mean, he wasn't quite all-star, but he was like a high-level starter. So if that trend line at age 24 had continued and he had expanded from 2.5 box plus minus to maybe 4 box plus minus, you are talking about an all-star center. Unfortunately for Jakob, it has gone completely the other way. Now, I want to paint this in a picture for you. We often look at advanced metrics to measure what the box score does not. So one of the things that we often do is we look at what is, especially with drop bigs, and Jakob is not exclusively a drop big. He is quick. He is quicker than your average bear. You know, when you look at him, you don't think that he'd be able to switch out on a wing, but he can. I think quick twitch guards will give him a lot of trouble, but he's more switchable than Jusuf Nurkic or Nikola Jokic. He's not like, don't believe what your eyes are telling you there. He is quite nimble, and that's really the upside of Yak, that he can do that. But in terms of being a drop big, one of the things you always look at with guys like Robert Williams, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson, is how well do opponents shoot at the rim when they're on the court, specifically against them. And with Jakob on the court, opponents did shoot 7% worse for a while there. I think it was 4 years ago that the opponent shot 7% worse. And you can say, to make opponents shoot 7% worse on the most important shot in basketball, or the most efficient shot, which is an open layup or a layup in basketball, you could say that is a hefty plus. It's a great thing to have on the court, is to have a guy who can basically shut down the most efficient place on offense for the other team. I do want to say this year, not only is the block percentage, blocks per game, all that stuff has been on the downward trend, there's also an interesting stats that says that he is allowing opponents to shoot 3% better at the rim. So that raises some eyebrows. Now, there's two possible explanations for that. Number one, obviously, you could look at it and say, well, he's on a terrible team and maybe he's just not motivated to do that for them. Maybe he has terrible defenders around him and they're giving too many blow-bys at the point of attack, and maybe you can make the case that he's just not motivated to play that level of high-level defense. But there's also the very real possibility that for a guy who wasn't overly bursty or super athletic to begin with, wasn't really a high-level athlete. I mean, I want to say high-level athlete, he's an NBA athlete, but he wasn't a run, jump, dunk, everything type of athlete. You could make a very realistic case that maybe this is really a guy who's not going to age well beyond 30 either. He's just 27 years old, turning 28. Is it possible that Jakob Poeltl's best days are behind him at 28? Is that like, or 27? Is that completely out of the realm of possibility? No, it's not. You would be surprised when you go back and really study the career trajectory and career arc of players, how often you will see a peak from 24 to 28. It happens all the freaking time. You will also be surprised how often you see a peak from 28 to 32. Peaks happen at all different times. If the Raptors are buying on the downside of Jakob Poeltl's career, this move has potentially disastrous consequences, because not only do you have him now on your roster, but you also are potentially going to sign him for that decline, which is exactly the same thing I was saying about Siakam. So, look, there's a world in which Jakob Poeltl is a very, very above average, serviceable starting center for the next 4 years, and you make out of this trade like bandits. And it doesn't kill your spacing, and somehow you find a way to make it work. Nick Nurse makes it work. But there's another version of this where you sign him to $15 to $20 million and he becomes Khem Birch for you next year. Obviously, he will never be as bad as Khem Birch. Like, I don't think Jakob Poeltl at 35 could be as bad as Khem Birch, but there's one thing that Khem Birch could do for you, which, granted, the Raptors did not like, they did not like playing him. Khem Birch could set screens, and Khem Birch could still pop out and be somewhat a respectable three-point shooter. I mean, we've seen shooting potential in Khem Birch. Now let's talk about the ugly, and there's a little bit of that. And this is getting a little bit late. We've extended the trade deadline show till 11:30, and if this keeps going, then maybe we'll extend it to 11:35. One stream will pretty much bleed into the next. The ugly is why I yelled no. Right? You can't trade the 2023 and 2025 draft picks. because of the Stepien rule, because you have traded 2024. Now we are still, I have not checked my phone very much over the last hour. Maybe the news broke about what those protections were. Sometimes you trade a 2024 pick, it's protected. Top 10, top 12, top 13, top 20, top 25. I doubt it was top 20 or top 25. I believe, if I had to guess, it would be top 8, top 7, or top 10, or top max lottery protected. So I think the problem there with the Stepien rule is, depending on how that deal conveys, either way, you cannot trade your 2023 pick, which, I mean, I didn't want to, but regardless, you cannot trade out of it because of the Stepien rule. And you can't trade 2025, which means that in any deal, you would have to trade 2026 is the earliest you could trade. And I think that is a bit of a downside if a star does become available that you really want to look at, like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You don't know if a Shai becomes available. I don't know what the OKC Thunder would want, but if a guy does become available, just put it this way, the Raptors will not be in the same position that they were. And I think that this is, while I'm very happy that they did not get rid of the 2023 draft pick, I think this is the disaster of giving up future picks, is you immediately go to the bottom. You become the last dog to the bowl when it comes to future trades for superstars, because we are seeing over and over again, whether it be the Paul George trade or the Anthony Davis trade or the Donovan Mitchell trade, that almost every, and now the Kevin Durant trade, that almost every single rival GM is looking for 3-4 future firsts. You can offer swaps, but as I mentioned in yesterday's live stream, Raptor swaps are not usually very exciting for rival teams. I don't think Raptor draft picks are overly exciting for rival teams. The synergy with, I think he's unplayable late. He's a terrible free throw shooter. He shoots 59% from the free throw line. I think that will create complications. I think his synergy with Scottie and Pascal is complicated. They're both long, stridey, straight line drivers. And while Siakam can still technically do a decent-ish job with Jakob, and they have chemistry and they know each other and stuff, I think there's a really good case to be made that this move hurts Scottie more than anyone, and it helps Fred and Pascal the most. So it's kind of a weird thing where, if you're looking at it really, it's really a long-term vote for Siakam. Just like hiring his brother to be a coach in the D League was a long-term vote for Siakam, just like hiring Rico Hines was a long-term vote for Siakam. Man, this team better not really think that this guy is a top 10, top 15 type guy, because I'm telling you, he's not. And it seems like they seem absolutely obsessed with the idea of surrounding him with everything that makes him comfortable, regardless of what it does for the other team. What I did not leave on the graphic is how this impacts the role of Precious Achiuwa and Christian Koloko, both of whom have been really good defenders, really good shot blockers, and have shown capabilities of doing a lot of what Jakob does. Is Jakob way more efficient than both of them? Hell yes. He is way more efficient, and he is more impactful than both those guys right now. I would argue that if you put Jakob Poeltl on one team and Christian Koloko and Precious Achiuwa on the other team, and you said, okay, center minutes, 40 minutes a night for Jakob, 40 minutes is split between those two, yeah, the team with Jakob would be better. But I don't necessarily think that being better this year makes a hell of a lot of a difference. I also don't think that overall this is a great long-term vote for Precious Achiuwa, because you are basically saying that we have long-term fits at center and power forward. He's not a small forward, probably not. So where does Precious Achiuwa fit into all of this? I think what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is that he impacts winning on a really high level. I think the Raptors made a move for nostalgia. I think this was a nostalgic move. I think people celebrating this move are saying, hey, Yak and skills. Okay, great. But this is not the same players. This is not the same roster. And while I am cautiously optimistic that they will make moves today, specifically around either Gary Trent Jr. or OG Anunoby. OG, I don't want to see go. Okay? You can say another positive of this is that it gives you a starter who does not demand high usage, right? Jakob Poeltl may have been getting 18% usage on San Antonio. I would not be surprised to see him get 12% usage on the Raptors. He's going to do for your offense what Christian Koloko is doing, which is just roll hard to the basket and not demand touches and not, it won't be for a lack of trying. His fit works. Just want to quickly flash some impact metrics for him before we wrap this up, just for anybody who's trying to get an understanding of just how efficient he is. I mean, you'll see a nice little blank next to the 3-point shot. Yeah, he doesn't shoot well from mid-range, does not shoot well from it doesn't shoot well at all from the three, cannot shoot free throws. But again, he does a lot of the little stuff. I made this comparison last night to Scottie Barnes, sort of like what Scottie did for the offense when the offense was working well. Granted, Yak can't really push the fast break like Magic Johnson or make, super dimey no-look passes. But he does a lot of the same stuff, man. He crashes the glass. He defends the paint. He contests, inside. He's going to post up. He can do like stuff in the short roll. He can set solid screens. And yeah, like, do I, some of you say like, oh, why are we doing this if Scottie can do it? Well, honestly, from a development standpoint, I don't think you want Scottie turning into this. My parting note, by this, I mean, I don't think you necessarily want Scottie Barnes turning into that type of player. It's not necessarily the best version of him. I think we've seen stories from development hell as Raptor fans. We've seen, the Raptors beef up guys like Jonas Valanciunas and Andrea Bargnani when it was clear that agility was definitely the way to go with those guys, and we just beefed them up and tried to make them Shaq stoppers, and it kills development. There's a multitude of different ways that you can take a guy's development. Turning Scottie Barnes into the next Draymond Green is not my idea of maximizing his potential long term. I would like to see him be in a position where he has to shoot more. I would like to see, earlier in the year when Will Lou and all those guys were going off about how Scottie needs to return to the post. Yeah, I realize that's where he's most efficient. But long term, the best thing for him is to become a predator wing. Like a Paul George, like a Kawhi Leonard. He has to learn how to shoot better. He has to take more shots. I know sometimes it's going to be 2 for 7, but that has to become a consistent part of his diet for him to maximize his full end potential. He will eventually have to play point guard or shooting guard or small forward. I do not want to see Scottie Barnes turning into a small ball center. It's not where his future is. It may be where his career ends. He may end up having a similar, positional trend line as LeBron James, where the older he gets, the more he plays as a big, and he's always going to be super strong. But I would like to see Scottie Barnes be a guard, and I think Jakob Poeltl helps with that. How does it help the rest of the roster? I don't know. How does it help Scottie, when he occupies a place on the court? I don't know. I mean, stealthy tank move? Maybe. I don't know. What I do know is that my 2 parting notes are this. Upside, downside. Upside, the Raptors get out of a 2024 draft pick, which is, in my opinion, a weak draft. As I mentioned yesterday, I think it's a weak draft. And despite the complications of, hey, we won't be able to make those trades, let's see if they get draft picks back today. If you get a boatload of draft picks today, I would say, let's put it this way. If the Raptors today just said, okay, let's trade Jakob Poeltl for a 2023 first round pick. We didn't like the 2024 draft. Then the way to think about this is you traded two second round picks to get out of Khem Birch, and now you traded Jakob Poeltl and a 2024. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can justify it in your head and say, if you didn't like the 2024 draft and you wanted another pick in the 2023 draft because you wanted to get Scottie help sooner, you wanted to get a player in a better draft, I could make an argument right now. Granted, drafts change, right? Nobody in 2020 was like, oh, 2023 is going to be great. But 2024 draft class is somewhat like known to us. Like, we can sort of see the players. And I think there's a reason why people are not as excited about that draft class. It happens. There are lulls in draft classes. We've seen it all the time. The Raptors should know in 2006, right? If the Raptors had the first pick in 2005 or 2007, I mean, you're talking about a drastically different player than Andrea Bargnani. Right? What is the gap between Kevin Durant, Greg Oden, and LaMarcus Aldridge and Andrea Bargnani? It's a massive gap, right? So that's sort of the plus side is I think the Raptors get an asset, and what you turn this asset into if this doesn't work out, this is not the end of the world. You didn't gut your entire future. You didn't get rid of a young player that you really believe in. There was widely rumored that it was going to be Gary plus a first. I mean, Chem and a first and 2 seconds is a hell of a concession from Gary and a first. You know what I mean? There was also rumor that the San Antonio Spurs wanted multiple firsts, and you don't give up multiple firsts here. You give a protected first in a draft class that I really don't care about. Why is this a D then? Why am I giving this grade a D? Well, there was a rumor that the Raptors were looking at Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons as, a potential Siakam trade partner, and, the Nets had to add Nick Claxton or whatever. Now, I'm not rating Nick Claxton. I think, a lot of who he is on offense and defense, I think it's good, but it's not great. Like, I don't see him like Evan Mobley level defender, and I see him as a very limited offensive player as well. But I do want to say that the vitriol towards Ben Simmons, even towards Scottie Barnes' draft as a Simmons type player, it's kind of funny to me, right? Because in a lot of ways, Jakob Poeltl is a really, really, really watered down Ben Simmons. Yeah, he can't push the fast break. He's not going to be able to switch 1 through 5. But he occupies exactly the same place on the court. He refuses to shoot threes, and he can't make free throws. He occupies the dunker spot. It's awkward. Like, Jakob Poeltl has never been a major part of a really good team. I think that should be part of it. I think that should be part of the equation that you're thinking about with him. So, long story short, I don't think this is great for the Raptors. I'm going to just extend the Toronto Raptors are not done live stream to 11:35. No, let's make it 11:40. And I'm just going to have some time to quickly browse through your 254 comments. And someone saying, okay, Mark Anderson saying the Raptors are the new Sacramento Kings. So just to clarify to the 296 people here, this last bit is just going to be me going through your comments as they were flooding through and just hopefully reacting to a few of them. I don't think so. Siakam isn't going anywhere. Yeah, but I mean, it's really him and Scottie that make this so complicated, because if the Boston Celtics had made this trade with all of their players around, I think this almost makes sense, right? But even with the Celtics, you'll see like they're so much better when Al Horford plays. Why? Because Al Horford can space to the corner three. Well, yeah. Andrew, I really disagree with this comment. Jalen Suggs shoots like 24% from three. I think if you want to have the worst spacing in NBA history, yeah, I don't think so. K Money saying, I don't get it, man. I don't. Yes, I am going to be ending this stream, and we're going to jump on to the other one in about 5 minutes. I don't think I am, but you're entitled to your opinion. Anyway, make sure to hit like, and obviously, again, this video, why didn't I just put it as part of the other stream? Well, because, a lot of people are curious to understand about Jakob Poeltl, and they do not have time to dig through a 4-hour, 5-hour, 6-hour stream. So we are going to be doing the Raptors trade deadline live stream in about 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes on the other stream on this channel. Make sure to hit like on this video when it goes live. Make sure to hit drop a comment. That stream will follow we'll just be reacting live to all the trades, doing some analysis, taking some call-ins. We're going to do some call-ins on that show. We can have some conversations. We can bring on 2-3 people. Let's just, deal with this together. We are a community, the Raptors community. We all want this team to be better. Okay, I don't think anybody here wants this team to be worse. And if you do want this team to be worse, I wonder why you following a team that you want to be worse. No, we want the team to be better long term. We all have different ideas about how that is going to come about. I don't think Jakob Poeltl is the answer. I'll be happy to be proven wrong. I got to be honest. I don't think I'm wrong about this, though. Like, there's a version of events here where you trade either OG or Gary, right? And you could say, well, oh my God, don't you need those guys because you have, you need shooting now. Yeah, you need shooting, but you also need to clear up the fact that you have a log jam at starting. You have you have 6 starters, and 3 of them that you could justify. You're not moving Fred to the bench. 4 of your starters are now eligible for long-term contracts this offseason. 5, really. 5 of your 6 starters are eligible for long-term contracts starting this offseason. Pascal is extension eligible. OG will be extension eligible. Fred and Gary have opt-outs, and Jakob Poeltl is a free agent. So you are taking a situation that I was expecting them to take on a salary of a guy who's kind of settled in his contract, has contracts the next 2 years. The Raptors retain maximum flexibility. When you say max flexibility, they could literally let everyone walk. And I don't understand why the hell you would do that. But yeah, this is a. I know it doesn't feel that way because especially if you say the term 3 picks, 3 picks, 3 picks 500 times, you will psych yourself out of reality for this one. I don't value future seconds nearly as much as you might expect me to. Unless you're a really bad team and you expect you expect those picks to be in the high 30s. Trust me, like pick 50, pick 48. These are very limited assets. Like sometimes it really does work out for you, but trust me, if you really identify a guy that you really want to take at 48, someone from 42 to 48 will trade you that pick for a future first if you desperately want it so badly. So if the Raptors really find a prospect is sliding and they're just like, oh my God, we wish you could have, Jaden Ivey or not Jaden Ivey, Jaden Hardy or Cam Thomas or someone like that who's just falling. I know Cam Thomas, I believe, was picked in the first round, but Jaden Hardy, I believe, was picked in the second round, 37th pick. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh my God, we wanted this guy in the lottery and he slipped all the way to 37. Well, how's his career working out? It's not great, So the Raptors do have a first and a second for 2023. I don't believe that they got rid of any of those. Correct me if I'm wrong. They said 2 future seconds. I really hope it's not the 2023 second. Does anyone know what the seconds were? Which second round picks there were? No? Okay, we'll figure it out in the next 5 minutes, and we will see you on the other live stream. All right, guys. Talk to you in 5 minutes. K-Money, we could have had Desmond Bane, Kessler, Walker Kessler, and Scottie as a young core moving forward. Oh, no. Is this for real? Oh. Okay. So you actually do give up a 2023 second round pick. And the first is top 6 protected. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I don't think the Raptors have any intention in the world of being bad enough to convey a top 10 pick in 2024. I think, but again, could we have said the same thing last year about this year? Yeah. And we were firmly 6th this year. So scary times to take on a risk like this. But again, it's not the 2023 draft. I really do. And yeah, I'm a little bit bummed about the 2023 draft pick, to be honest, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. There are a lot of players in that 2023 draft class that I've been looking at in the 20s and 30s, and they look good. So that kind of sucks. But you got to give something to get something, I guess. We will see what the rest of this day brings. I've just prepared myself mentally that OG Anunoby is not going to be a Raptor. I hope I'm wrong. But yeah. All right. Take care, guys. See you on the other stream. Bye.